Hi, Anthony. It's Catherine Sharp, and it is Sunday Reflection number 7. And the assignment for this week was a fun assignment. I appreciated something different, which is I get to interview someone from my community that is in leadership that I respect and have always wanted to kind of have more conversation with about leadership. So I have with me tonight one of my pastors of my church, and his name is Jason Seifert. And he's with Antioch Community Church in the Houston area. And Jason is someone that I have observed for many years in his leadership style. And I would say that he is a servant leader. He is a leader who takes a charge of several different kind of communities and groups and can take them from beginning to end in a way that is really fascinating to me. And so I'm honored and privileged to get to talk to you tonight. And I know we don't have many very long, but there were a couple incidences that I witnessed Jason lead us as a church body and really a community. His wife is on the school board here in Friendswood, and to watch the way that they lead our community is great. We experienced Hurricane Harvey together, and Jason, during Hurricane Harvey is when I really saw you kind of step up, and he's a soft-spoken man, but just step up and lead us. And do you mind just sharing kind of what your thought process was and what you learned in leadership, related to leadership through Hurricane Harvey?
Yeah, well, I think everybody learned something through Harvey, and it was obviously a pretty devastating thing for our city and all of our communities. Friendswood, more than a third of the homes were flooded, and so the incredible thing was that everybody, many people jumped in to help, and that was a real reflection of our community and our city. But what we found is, as everyone was trying to help, there wasn't a mass organization to coordinate all the efforts, and so a few times we had to realize that sometimes some of our groups were showing up at a house and another group was showing up at a house, and so you had these people ready to jump in and help, but we weren't able to make the best use of that help.
Yeah.
And so we actually pulled together a few times with different teams and different groups of people and said, hey, let's find a way of getting our communications together so that we make the best use of the resources that we have, with different groups coming in and stuff. And so that proved to be really, really helpful. We got some different ways of messaging and getting communications out there so that we could send people to a place and they actually had work to do, and they weren't showing up and finding that the work's already been done.
I remember. So my house was one of the houses that flooded during Harvey, and I remember all of a sudden getting text messages from my church body on, do you have a need? Okay, we're going to be now sending 7 people to your house at this time, and it was just so amazingly organized, and that was really impressive. And there's a theory that we've learned in this class called path goal theory that is about just that, which you saw the end goal that was basically how do we gather everyone and clear out these houses. And I just love the way you quickly were able to identify what the obstacles were, and how we needed to get to the end goal, which now we are functioning. So fast forward now, we've gone through a pandemic, and so we've gone through COVID together. So I've seen you lead in a different way. I mean, Hurricane Harvey was a true, just quick catastrophe, but the pandemic, explain that and kind of what you experienced there.
Well, I think it was true in every sphere of society, whether it's church or healthcare or business world or government. Nobody had a game plan, and the information that we needed to make our plans was incoming. It was changing, and everyone was depending on everyone else. We needed to. What's happening in one sphere of society was going to affect another sphere of society, and so we were all having to try to figure things out. But people wanted information really quickly, and so it was a real leadership challenge, I think, for everyone. And so ultimately, as we were taking the information that we had at hand and trying to come up with what's the criteria that we need here, what are we trying to do, and ultimately making some decisions to say we need to do what's in the best interest of all of our church community with what we're doing, but also recognizing what a school district is doing or what the healthcare government's doing or whatever, that's going to impact what we can do. So our church is mobile. We don't have a facility of our own, and so we were really relying on a school district to let us know when we could return to a building and when we did, under what stipulations. And so we had to sort of pull together and talk together and say, whatever it is we decide, we have to make sure we're taking into account all the various different feelings and thoughts and emotions associated with what's
Right.
going on. Try to care for our church when we couldn't be together.
Yeah.
Try to stay connected in all those different ways, and then to determine when would come back together and be able to have church services. It was a very complex and complicated kind of situation, but we just did our best to try to stay in communication with our church. And for the most part, people were really gracious about it, as long as we could just try to explain what we were doing, why we were doing it, why it was taking a little too long.
Yeah.
And I think again, every sphere of society was having to figure that stuff out.
Yeah. Well, it's been fascinating to watch you, and I wish we could talk for 30 minutes. I really do, but we want to respect, we've got about 6. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership. I want to say thank you for the style of leadership, not only as a pastor, just as a community leader. And it's so fun to watch and to be a part of. So thank you also for participating in this, especially on a Sunday night. So
You bet.
I appreciate you. Thanks.